You're 16, and the ropes around your wrists are still wet from the river crossing. They took you 3 days ago from the village near the hills where your grandmother kept goats and dried figs on a flat stone in the sun. You remember the sound of her voice more than her face now. The soldiers came at dusk, moving fast through the low grass, and you were caught before you reached the edge of the field. Now you stand in a line with 11 others, your feet sore from the road, your throat dry from the dust. The city ahead is enormous. Columns of pale stone rise taller than any tree you've ever seen. Men with shaved heads and painted eyes watch the line pass. You don't understand the language, but their faces tell you everything. You are no longer a person. You are an arrival. You're still 16, and the first house is not the last. A scribe walks down the line, touching chins, examining teeth, pressing thumbs into arms to test the muscle. He writes something down beside your name, though the name he writes isn't your name. He gives you another one, a short word with hard sounds in the middle. You don't know what it means. A woman with a linen wrapped tight around her chest takes you from the line and leads you through a narrow gate into a walled courtyard where water runs through a channel in the floor. She pours oil over your hair and combs through it without kindness, her fingers quick and practiced. She's done this many times before. She doesn't speak to you. She inspects your hands. She inspects your feet. She wraps you in white cloth and sends you inside. You're 17, and the household where they place you belongs to a high official who serves the temple district. His home is wide and cool, with reed mats on the floors and painted fish along the lower walls. There are 6 other servants already working there. 2 of them came from the same region as you, further south along the river's edge, and they teach you the words you need: bread, water, yes, the master's name, how to bow correctly. The angle matters. Too deep and you seem mocking. Too shallow and you seem proud. You practice on the stone floor of the storage room until your back aches. One of the older women tells you to watch the steward's hands, not his face, because his face lies, but his hands do not. You'll learn this quickly. His hands are never still. You're 17, and the work is not brutal, but it is endless. You rise before the light touches the courtyard. You carry water from the large clay jars near the gate into the bathing room. You fold linen. You sweep. You grind grain until your shoulders burn. You serve food at the low table where the master reclines on cushions with his guests. You keep your eyes down and your feet quiet. The guests speak loudly about taxes and trade routes and the flooding of the Nile. You carry their cups and hear everything. None of them look at you directly. You're the furniture that moves. When you spill a small amount of wine near the edge of the mat, you freeze, waiting. Nothing happens. You breathe again slowly. That night, the older woman tells you that your luck is better than most. You're 18, and the master's wife begins to notice you. Not with warmth, but with calculation. She's tall and wears her wig slightly forward, and she watches the way her husband's eyes move when you enter the room. She has you reassigned to the outer courtyard, grinding and washing, away from the banquet space. You don't protest. Protest isn't something that exists for you here. You work in the courtyard through the midday heat, your skin darkening further under the sun, your hands cracking along the knuckles. A younger servant girl brings you water sometimes and sits beside you without speaking. You don't ask her name. Names feel fragile here. Attachments feel dangerous. You learn to hold things loosely. You're 19, and the wife falls ill with a fever that lasts through the dry season. The house shifts around her sickness like water around a stone. The master becomes short-tempered and silent. The steward walks faster. The other servants speak in small voices near the grain stores. You're sent back inside to help with the household duties, carrying food to her room, cooling her face with a damp cloth, keeping the oil lamps filled. She looks at you from the bed with her dark eyes, and you see something in them you didn't expect. Not cruelty, not scorn, something closer to fear. She's afraid of dying, and you're the one bringing water. And the strangeness of that arrangement hangs in the room between you like smoke. You don't know what to do with her fear. You do your work and leave. You're 20, and the wife recovers. She's quieter after that. Something in her face is settled. She doesn't move you back to the outer courtyard. She doesn't explain this. One morning, she hands you a small linen cloth to embroider, the blue thread already measured out beside it, and leaves without speaking. You sit with the cloth in your lap for a long moment before you begin. The girl who brings water tells you that this is a sign that the mistress has decided to keep you close. Kept close means safer. Kept close also means watched more carefully. You take the cloth and you begin the stitching. Your mother taught you how when you were small, and the motion of it comes back without effort, your hands remembering something your mind had almost let go. You're 21 and there's a festival on the Western Bank for one of the gods whose name you still can't pronounce correctly. The household attends. You walk in the procession with other servants, behind the family, carrying offerings wrapped in palm leaves. The street is crowded and loud with drums and the smell of roasting meat and burning incense. For a moment, in the press of the crowd, you could step aside. You could have gone before anyone turned around. You know this. You stand still and keep walking. Because you know what happens to those who run and are caught, and you've seen the marks left on others. Because you have nothing outside this household. Because the city is enormous and you are alone in it. Because surviving means staying. The drums keep beating and the procession moves forward. You're 23 and the master takes a second wife, a younger woman from a northern city who arrives with her own servants and her own furniture and her own opinions. The first wife's face tightens, but she says nothing publicly. The house rearranges itself around this new presence. You're assigned to the new wife's quarters. She's not unkind exactly. She's indifferent in a cleaner way than the first wife's hostility. She speaks to you in short, precise instructions and expects them followed without repetition. You adapt quickly. Adaptation is the only skill you've been allowed to keep. She asks you once where you come from, and you tell her the name of your region. She nods slowly, as if filing it away somewhere. She doesn't ask again. You're 24, and the master is promoted to a position closer to the palace administration. The household moves. A new house, larger with a second courtyard, and a garden that grows in careful rows. There are more servants now, some bought, some inherited from a deceased relative. You're no longer the newest or the most uncertain. There are young ones looking to you now, the way you once watched the older woman who taught you the angle of the bow. You show a boy from the southern delta how to fold the offering cloths correctly. You show a girl how to carry a wide jar without tipping her neck. You don't think of this as kindness. You think of it as how things pass from person to person, in a place where nothing else can be passed down. You're 26 and the first wife dies in the night, quietly, without warning. They find her in the morning, still on her sleeping mat, her wig resting neatly beside her, as if she had only just removed it. The house mourns formally for the required number of days. You carry food to the morning room. You keep the lamps burning. You watch the master stand in the courtyard for a long time one evening, looking at the garden, saying nothing. You think about her face the night she was sick, the fear in her eyes. She never said a single kind word to you. She also never had you beaten. You don't know what to feel, and you realize that you've become very practiced at not knowing what to feel. You carry the next lamp in. You're 28 and the new wife is pregnant, and the household turns its attention entirely to that fact. The physician comes often. Special foods are brought in. A particular amulet carved from green stone is hung near the sleeping room. You're assigned to attend her through the nights when her sleep is restless, sitting near the doorway, ready when she calls. The nights are long and the room is warm. Sometimes she sleeps and you sit in the dark, listening to the sounds of the city beyond the wall. Dogs, water, someone in another house singing something low and steady. You let yourself remember your grandmother's voice for a little while. Then you fold it away again before morning. You're 29 and a daughter is born and lives, and the house breathes out. Celebrations, feasting, gifts from the temple. You carry the child sometimes when the wet nurse needs rest. She's small and solid and smells of milk and cedar oil. You hold her carefully. Her fingers wrap around your thumb without understanding what they're holding. You think about what this child's life will look like. All the floors she'll never have to sweep. All the rooms that she'll simply walk into and own by her presence alone. You don't speak this thought out loud. You have no one to speak it to. You press your thumb gently against her small hand and carry her to the next room. You're 31, and the master is aging visibly now. His steps slower, his voice softer in the evenings. He sits more in the garden and calls for dates and wine and asks for a reader to come, one of the literate servants from the record room, who reads temple texts aloud in a steady voice while the master closes his eyes. You pass through the garden during these readings sometimes, carrying laundry or water. The words wash over you without meaning, sacred language you were never taught. You've been in this household for 15 years. It's the longest that you've lived anywhere. The village where you were born feels like something you heard in a story once, something that happened to someone whose face you almost remember. You're 33, and the master calls the household together in the main room. His voice is thin but deliberate. He speaks, and the steward translates for those who still need it, though you understand most of it now without help. He's arranging his affairs. He names the new wife as the keeper of the estate. He names his daughter as heir of the northern properties. And he names 4 servants by the short, hard names that they were given when they arrived, granting them formal status within the household. Not freedom, but something adjacent to it. A recorded position, a right to remain. Your name is among the 4. You stand very still when you hear it. The steward looks at you briefly, then looks away. That night, you sit in your room near the kitchen garden and press your palms against the warm stone of the floor and breathe slowly in the dark. And for a long time, you don't move at all.